We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Overnight, Idalia hammering South Carolina and Georgia after wreaking havoc on the Big Bend of Florida. Storm surge inundating Charleston, the waters breaching the seawall, flooding the city's historic downtown, Market Street underwater. The tide level at Charleston Harbor peaking at over 9 feet, the 5th highest on record, the supermoon helping fuel the high tide. Idalia spawning multiple tornadoes nearby. This terrifying moment caught on camera, a twister tossing this car into the air.
That car's flying!
Oh my God. Oh.
The storm taking off the roof of this veterinary hospital in North Carolina. Down in Georgia, no major flooding in Savannah, but strong winds downing trees. More than 160,000 power outages reported in the state last night. But in Florida, the devastation far more extensive. 125-mile-per-hour winds slamming the city of Perry, knocking down this gas station. The powerful gusts slicing through trees and stop signs. McDonald's Golden Arches, no match for Dahlia's fury. Throughout the city, roofs caving in or ripped off entirely.
The top of the roof just caved, slapped in on me and my 3 kids and my grandson.
Oh my God.
My daughter is pregnant. She's 5 months pregnant, but I was able to pull her out of it.
On Cedar Key, record-breaking storm surge slamming into buildings and carrying away massive amounts of debris. This home in Horseshoe Beach breaking apart and gone within moments. Rescue crews in Crystal River using airboats to bring families and pets to safety. Farther south in Tampa, people kayaking through waist-deep water. And up in the capital, Tallahassee, a reporter with our station there capturing the moment the power went out.
We just lost power.
More than 150,000 customers were without power throughout the state last night, but Duke Energy promising 95% restoration by morning.
The marina here in St. Petersburg was flooded yesterday. You can still see some debris scattered across this area. Meanwhile, Idalia continues to hug the East Coast as a tropical storm expected to move out to sea this afternoon.
Unbelievable. What a storm, baby. What a big storm. You know, I hope everybody's okay in Valdosta. I hope everybody's okay in Myrtle Beach. I hope everybody's that car. Oh, my God.
You told me a car flipped, and I had a picture in my mind of what you might have been talking about, not literally flying 50 feet across the road into another.
Oh, you didn't think it was that bad?
That was crazy.
Wasn't it? I was like, Brett, the first clip of the day, man. You're going to see this car got caught up in a tornado in Gooseberry, South Carolina, someplace called Gooseberry, and it just, like, lifted the car and threw it. And Brett goes, are they okay? I'm like, I don't know. Call the Gooseberry police and find out if they're okay.
I'm concerned.
Are they okay? What kind of a question is that? Oh my God! It's like the whole entire southern east, the southeast, coast of the United States. It's bye bye everybody, bye bye. Nice to talk to you. Nice to be here. Now it doesn't exist, and FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. I got to tell you, the Republicans are deciding amongst themselves right now whether or not to do a few things. And, the place that they have power is in Congress. And guess what Congress gets to do? Yeah, appropriate the money. And so they're debating, the Republicans are right now, like by text message to each other because they're in recess. You understand all this is going on and they don't think that they need to, scurry back to work? Can you imagine if all this was happening at your place of work and you decided, I'm on vacation, I'll make a decision when I get back. Anyway. When they get back, they will have literally 11 legislative days. 11. This is what they've left themselves in order to fund the government, the entire thing. They're going to have to decide what, there's 12 appropriations bills. They've only done one, right? So it always ends up being combied, right? It's always a combo thing. and they're going to decide whether or not they're going to fund, the whole government. It has to get funded by September 30th, or guess what? Shuts down. It shuts down. And some of the, super freaks, and I don't mean that in the Rick James fun way. I mean like in the maggot, like delusional sort of, hey, if we ignore it, it will go away kind of a thing. The libertarian wet dream, let's put it that way, okay, with the do-nothing government. They would like to, they said, don't be afraid of a shutdown. The government can shut down. We don't need no stinking government. People won't even notice. That's what they are telling themselves and each other. I'm guessing through WhatsApp or text messages, right? Because they're not there. They're not at work. So they have a choice to make. Now, the only reason why they've decided maybe they should rethink the defunding of the government isn't because of these national emergencies. No, it's not because Arizona has, been like over 110 degrees for like 31 days in a row, setting new records. It's not because the sky in New York this summer turned into the same shade that Donald Trump is, some really scary, sickly orange color, and that people were, using their inhalers way too much to just, walk to the corner bodega to get, I guess a pack of cigarettes. But hey, I mean, all this is going on. We had Maui incinerated, like literally immolated, like just like that, like almost like Richard Pryor running down the street. You know what I mean? Just like on fire. Holy crap. Bones, ashes of people, remnants of humans still being DNA'd. I mean, people are still missing in action. It's not because of any of this, and it's certainly not because of Idalia. It's not because, Georgia or North Carolina or South Carolina or Florida. No, they have to decide whether they're going to fund the government now because they want to impeach Joe Biden. I kid you not. You can't make this swill up, okay? So they have to weigh their hopes and dreams for impeaching Joe Biden. For what? I have no idea. I mean, you can't impeach a guy for being old, because if you could impeach a guy for being old, Mitch McConnell would be the first one we would impeach. And actually, Dianne Feinstein would be the first guy we would impeach. And because she's 90 and Mitch is only 81, having neurological issues of some sort, for which I have a lot of sympathy. However, you can't impeach him for being old. Okay? And you can't impeach him for being the dad of a guy who used to be a crackhead. That's not impeachable either. I have no idea what Junior snorts, shoots, does it. I have no drinks. I have no idea what he does, but something is, making him crazy. Something is making him Junior. But anyway, you can't impeach a guy for that, okay? But literally, they are weighing whether or not they want to fund the government over their desire, their hopes and dreams to impeach Joe Biden. And if they shut down the government, no impeachment. See what I mean? However, there is another little detail in that story and in their decision making. And that has to do with everything we just went through, climate change wise. Okay? FEMA is running out of money. What would you do if you actually woke up and realized no one is coming for you in your libertarian wet dream of a country that you have in mind for us? What are you going to do? Gulf Coast? What are you going to do, Texas? What are you going to do, Louisiana? What are you going to do, Georgia? I shouldn't include Georgia. It's they're turning, they're changing, they're coming to their senses. But what are you going to do, South Carolina, when you realize no one's coming for you? These are the same people that mocked Joe Biden for giving the maximum allowed in emergency money. You're allowed the maximum, instant check that you can get from FEMA before there's any assessment of the damages, before there's any assessment of, infrastructure damage, your ability to, function at all medically, whatever, is $700. That's the first initial relief check that you get. And that check is to put gas in your car or to plug it into in the South, they have EV charging stations. No, it's to buy water, it's to buy Infamil, it's to buy diapers, whether you're young or old. That's what the $700 is for, okay? And they mocked Joe Biden for only giving $700, which is the maximum you can. And now they don't want to fund FEMA. I swear to God, same people. The hypocrisy with these people, the sheer, the gall of them. It's not even hypocrisy anymore. It's just the gall, the brazen lying, the seamless smarminess of them, the snake oil salesmanship of it all. So now, they, not only do they have to decide whether or not they want to fund the government, they have to actually appropriate money for freaking FEMA because they've gone through almost every appropriated dollar just this summer. Holy crap.
Clear for takeoff. All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Okay, this was just a few minutes ago, all right?
Every American expects FEMA will show up. And when they're in the middle of a disaster, and I'm calling on Congress to make sure you're able and have the funds to be able to continue to show up and meet the needs of the American people to deal with immediate crises that we're facing right now, as well as the long-term commitments that we have to make to finish the job in Maui and elsewhere. We're in a situation where, how can I say it? Some of my colleagues, my former colleagues in the Senate and people I work with every day in the United States Senate think that this disaster relief money we're asking to continue to finish the job so far and have enough money to continue to work to save the American people, their lives, their homes, their well-being, is somehow, I don't know, not needed, or I'm not even sure what their thinking is. But we need this money done. We need this disaster relief request met. We need to do it in September.
In September.
We can't wait.
Okay, he's talking about when they come back. All right, so half of them come back on the 5th, and then the other half come back on the 12th. Senate come back on the 5th. The House comes back on the 12th. And they're literally leaving themselves 11 legislative days in order to fund the entirety of the United States government. And they can't decide in the House of Representatives, these miscreants, these psychos, these maggots, they can't decide if they want to fund the government or impeach Joe Biden. And if they don't want to fund the government, then they can't impeach Joe Biden. And they're not even concerned about FEMA. We have had, okay, this particular hurricane, Idalia, okay? I'm so glad the name was Idalia, only for this reason. Nobody's child is going to be named Idalia, is it? Please don't do that. Not even a dog, not even a cat. Ida. I think my grandma's name, I know my grandma's name was Ida, but I don't think it was Idalia. No.
But didn't we have a Hurricane Ida just a little while ago?
Yes, and Ian.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing with Ron DeSantis. Okay, this is the only good reason. This is the only thing that's good about Ron DeSantis running for president. He can't F up this recovery. And he's very lucky because, for the most part, it affected very rural, swampy, low population areas. So I'm not saying that we won't come and we shouldn't clean up and we shouldn't help. No, I'm saying that the amount of people and the amount of houses and the amount of businesses that were destroyed are not as big as Ian, which hit Fort Myers and, what was it, Pinellas County? Just horrifying what happened last year, and they haven't recovered because Ron death sentence wasn't very busy, trying to be a big shot on the TV about, I could be president because I'm going to turn America into Florida. Well, so now he has to do something about the recovery from this one, and that's the only thing that I can see that's good about Ron DeSantis running for president. I mean, this is the only time I will ever say that Florida might be lucky that Ron DeSantis is running for president because it does put pressure on him not to screw up the recovery efforts from this one as he did from the last one. I mean, you look at Fort Myers and you can see he's incompetent, okay? He is. And he's careless and he couldn't care less about, anybody's recovery. He only cares about himself. And that's okay. So that said, we have a 15 separate disasters that have happened already just since June in this country. Well, let's go back to April. Because we had wildfires in April. So, I mean, the tab for this, does anybody ever sit there and say, wow, this climate denial thing is actually costing us a huge, pretty penny? And wouldn't it be something if we actually said, oh my God, we can't keep throwing billions multiple tens of billions, hundreds of billions, I swear to God, of dollars to rebuild places where there's no resiliency in the rebuild. Okay, you can understand that in the 1980s, and they're all telling us, oh, well, this part of Florida hasn't been hit by a hurricane in 150 years. These are once in 10,000 year storms that are happening every summer now, right? So when we do rebuild, wouldn't it be smart? Wouldn't it be cost effective for all of you penny pinching Republicans out there, you cloth coat Republicans? Wouldn't it be smart to build resiliency into the rebuild? I think this is what is meant when we say build back better is a thing. I think that's what we're talking about. Now, how would you mitigate against tidal waves? 12-foot storm surges, 9-foot storm surges, 6-foot storm surges at 0 sea level. How would you do that? Well, if you look around and you watched any of the videos that, were available to watch in the prep stories, in the actuality of the post, terribleness of the flooding, what you will notice and what you can see if you want to is places that do poured concrete buildings do much better in hurricane winds, and places like critical care places like hospitals and such have started to erect in front of the hospitals, plural now, these, they look almost like fencing, okay? These sort of concave ramps that go about 6 feet high, sometimes taller, in front of the hospitals. And you may have said to yourself, if you are a curious person, which I always applaud, why are they putting these rampy looking fences in front of the hospitals? Well, you would find out because you're so curious, and the satisfaction brings you back. Killed cat. Curiosity killed the cat. Satisfaction. Okay. You would find out that those are flood barriers. And they're not built here in the United States. They're built over there in, Norway, in Denmark, in Sweden. Why? Because they have canal life there, okay? And they're used to floods. And so they have learned through their engineering abilities to build flood barriers for critical care places or for places that they just don't want to see floods. And it works. And what I'm saying to you is, if we don't start accepting that this is happening more frequently, that these storms are bigger, they are wetter, they are they carry much more water with them, the winds are, higher because the storms are feeding off of the moist 100-degree ocean temperature, or in the Gulf, 90. Hot tub temperature, everybody. Tom DeLay would be thrilled about Florida. He loved a hot tub. But wouldn't it make sense that if we were going to, first of all, appropriate the money, which is a big, it's a question mark with these guys. Wouldn't it be smart if we built resiliency into whatever it is we built back? Wouldn't it be smart to, how many times are we going to watch power outages? How many times are we going to sit there and go, oh, there goes the power? Because a tree fell into a power line? Do you know? I mean, wouldn't it be smart, a good investment, and save us money on the back end if we actually said we need to build back better? Oh, I think somebody actually had that idea, but it was bad, right? Yeah, it's all a hoax.
Randy, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. Florida's a lovely place to be. Not only that, it's a marvel of human engineering. I mean, truly. 150 years ago, much of Florida was an uninhabitable, pestilential swamp. We drained and developed millions of acres, turned Florida into literally Disney World. A great civilizational achievement, man over nature. It is right now at a great risk of being undone by the greatest civilizational threat we have ever faced. Given all of that, you would think that the people who represent that uniquely precarious slice of land jutting out into the ocean in the path of increasingly severe storms would be fervently trying to mitigate the risk, reduce the enormous amounts of energy we are pumping into the atmosphere. But the reality is literally the opposite. Florida's Republican leaders are actually trying to make it worse, actively. Governor Ron DeSantis is refusing to accept $350 million in energy efficiency incentives that Florida is eligible for under the Inflation Reduction Act. He's just saying, burn it, no thanks, to hundreds of millions of dollars. And this is not like for some weird experimental, like liberal cause. It would just help people retrofit their homes with energy efficient appliances, which is a very simple, straightforward way to help tackle carbon emissions and climate change. The rejection is just insane nihilism. On one level, it's hard to even believe it that he's doing this. But of course, you know, Ron DeSantis also turned against the COVID vaccines, which is an equally obvious benefit for his constituents. My God, it is so rare in life and in policy that you just are handed something so simple that provides so much benefit, like the vaccines. And Ron DeSantis just turned on it for political expedience. I mean, his position on climate change is essentially vaccine denialism at civilizational scale.
I told you, right? Yesterday we went over this. There is a Inflation Reduction Act payment to states to help the residents of that said state to retrofit their homes with things like energy efficient appliances, right? And of course, Fox turns that into, they want to come and take your gas stove. Nobody is taking a gas stove away from anyone in Florida. You know how I know that? No one has a gas stove in Florida, unless they decided that they wanted one so bad that they would sink a propane tank in their yard, go ahead and dig the damn giant hole for a giant propane tank, which I know some people really want and do. But other than that, we're all electric down here. But here was the money. Here was the money to give you rebates. And I said to you, this is my money you're now turning down. This is my little stash of cash over here that you're turning down on my behalf. Cut the crap, man. Cut the crap. This money isn't for you. And I told you that our state legislature took a vote on whether or not they wanted the energy agency in Florida, because all this money that's coming from the feds to each and every state has to go through that state's energy agency, whatever that state is calling their energy agency. It has to go to them, and then they give it out as people, retrofit their homes or put solar panels on their homes. That's another rebatable item. And the Florida state legislature, which is all Republicans, voted to take this money. And Ron DeSantis went out of his way to veto that bill, to veto it, just because he said, we're not going to be doing any left-wing things. Like breathing is a left-wing thing, or building resiliency into a house that is obviously built on a freaking peninsula that is 0 degrees above sea level in most places. That's somehow a left-wing thing. Resiliency, saving money on the back end of any disaster, mitigating floods with barriers that are now engineered and ready and available that we could build here. That's somehow a left-wing thing. I mean, these people are so. You know, I really do believe that their base has an issue with processing facts, okay, for whatever reason. Whether it's they never learned how to manage facts, whether they don't know, they don't want to manage facts, or whether it's some cognitive dissonance thing where they wanted to sign on to this brazen liars bullcrap so bad that they did, lock, stock, and barrel. Because when I look at some of this, some of the profiling of, maggots, what you see is that they trust Donald Trump more than they trust their own family members. Well, that's cult-like behavior, okay? There's no getting around it. There's no sugarcoating that. There is no denying that if you're saying to me that you don't trust your friends, you don't trust your own family, more than to have your best interests at heart, more than Donald Trump, I don't even want to say what that makes you. Okay. But there is a problem in that base. There is a problem in those supporters, and we cannot govern ourselves based on that. We just can't. But there's a primary coming up in the Republican Party. And these primary people, these DeSantis's, Vivek Ramaswamy, I was telling you yesterday that, Vivek is smarmy. He is gross. He is another brazen liar. He is a complete asshat, okay? And he doesn't give a damn. He will just continue to, he's smart. He knows he's lying to you. He doesn't care. I will say, the only difference between him and Donald Trump seemed to be that Donald Trump's father gave Donald Trump the business that Donald Trump has. And Vivek Ramaswamy's father did not. His mother did. You see the difference? Yeah, Ramaswamy's mother, so a deep dive into his family will show you that his mother is a geriatric psychiatrist, which is why she had the street cred and the paper cred, the CV, the curriculum vitae, to actually sign off on the fact that he had bought a drug from GlaxoSmithKline that failed 4 clinical trials in the Alzheimer arena. But he was able to buy this, shed-off drug where they just said, we're shedding it from our, portfolio. We don't want it. It doesn't work. We did 4 clinical trials. Didn't show any improvement in any patient with any symptoms or presence of Alzheimer's disease. So if you want to buy it, we'll give it to you for $5 million. But we also want 12% of the, if you ever make anything out of it, right? And he agreed to that. Because his mother is a geriatric psychiatrist, and she had the ability to go over those clinical trials and massage them and change them just enough for Vivek to go on CNBC and claim that this was a revolutionary breakthrough drug and blah, blah, blah. And of course, people, ponied up. He did an IPO based on this garbage, raised millions, hundreds of millions of dollars off of it. And then, of course, it had to go through its 3rd stage clinical trial where, of course, it failed because it was a failure of a drug. And in one day, everyone who invested in his drug company in his initial public offering lost all their money. But not him. And that's how he made hundreds of millions of dollars. So the only difference between these two, con men is one's father and the other's mother.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Homeowners insurance, especially in coastal areas, have gone up anywhere from 25%, 30%, or even higher. And it is, especially in this recession, this Biden economy, it is forcing people to self-insure because the premiums are up, so significantly. Is there anything that maybe on the state level you can do, the federal government needs to do to deal with the rising costs, the dramatically higher costs for insuring your home?
We've done a number of reforms in the last year, Sean, including My Safe Florida Home program. People can get grants to fortify their homes and make improvements, and then they get lower rates. We also did huge reforms in the structure of our market earlier this year. What that has led to is we now have 4 new companies that are actually entering into Florida's property insurance market, which was not happening for so many years. And we've got a 5th company on deck. I mean, as you know, consumers need to have choices. That's how you keep premium increases in check. So we've got 4 in the hopper, 1 on the way, and I think you may, when this hurricane season's over, have more companies that are going to be willing to get in the market. But we've had a lot of issues with inflation generally, as you know, and then particularly having Hurricane Ian, which is one of the most costly storms in the history of the United States.
Oh, my God. He's literally being, shown on a split screen with a major freaking disaster, a weather disaster happening on the side, one side of the screen, and telling you, just the brazen lying, telling you that after this hurricane season, after everything that you've seen, after everything, that insurance companies will want to come back to Florida. They will want to come back. basically, he's telling you there's nothing he can do. The reason why our homeowners insurance has gone, I mean, mine is just, I won't even go back to like, when I first bought my house, my homeowners insurance was $750 a year. Okay. I won't even go back that far. I will just tell you that since he's been governor, okay, since his gubernatorial, experience has trickled down upon me and my home here in Florida, my homeowners insurance has gone up by 50, some people 60%. Okay, it's doubled. Some people's homeowners insurance has tripled. Why is that? That's because of he threw in with the trial lawyers. Okay, and the trial lawyers and the roofing industry in this state went hog wild on scamming homeowners. And what they would do is they would come knock on your door. The roofing company would. And they would say to you, your roof looks like, you haven't replaced it in a while. Oh, okay, my roof's, 20 years old. You know what? We can do a whole new roof for you, and you won't have to pay anything. Really? That sounds scammy. No, Miss Florida. You understand that this is a wonderful state where we can, actually take care of your roof with these programs that are now available to homeowners in Florida. Really? Yes, really. All you need to do is sign this piece of paper. What is this piece of paper? This piece of paper is a waiver. It says you will not make a claim to your insurance company. You will give us, the roofing company, the assignment. You will let us make the claim for you. And then they file the claim. The insurance company looks at it and goes, oh, hell no. And then they hire lawyers, or they've already hired a law firm or a couple of law firms that work these cases, and they go into the insurance company and they make sure that they, litigate so that the insurance company has to settle with them and pay the roofer, who may or may not have done the work. Meantime, you're waiting for your roof to get done. And it could be a year, and it could be 2 years. My neighbor did it. Okay, my neighbor had roofing supplies on his roof for almost a year, all through last hurricane season. Okay, and when I said, I don't think it's really cool that you have all these roofing tiles, on your roof, and we're now in hurricane season, he told me to go F myself and then cut down my tree. Because I have a wackadoodle, Florida man as a neighbor. Oh, I do. I have a neighbor who literally goes outside at 4 o'clock in the morning with a chainsaw and does his gardening. No, I'm not kidding. So, you got to kind of steer clear of this guy. Because he's one of those guys that never wears a shirt and walks his dog in the rain. You know what I'm saying? That's my neighbor. And you can't, peeve him. You just don't want to, because, everybody's armed here. Oh, by the way, this was Ron DeSantis's, advice to us, how we get through this.
There are reports of people trying to loot down in Steinhatchee. And I've told all of our personnel at the state level, you protect people's property, and we are not going to tolerate any looting in the aftermath of a natural disaster. I mean, it's just ridiculous that you would try to do something like that on the heels of an almost Category 4 hurricane hitting this community. I'd also just remind potential looters that you never know what you're walking into. People have a right to defend their property. This part of Florida, you got a lot of advocates and some proponents of the Second Amendment. And I've seen signs in different people's yards in the past after these disasters, and I would say it's probably here. You loot, we shoot. You never know what's behind that door. If you go break into somebody's house and you're trying to loot, these are people that are going to be able to defend themselves and their families. So I would not do it. We are going to hold you accountable from a law enforcement perspective at a minimum, and it could even be worse than that, depending on what's behind that door.
Wait a minute. Are you actually saying that if somebody took a bottle of water from your porch, you get to kill them? Is that your position? Because I think it is. I think that's what he was saying. Okay, I really do think that. But I mean, inciting violence. This is all they do. This is all they do. This is their answer to everything. Just get your gun, and I honestly, really, this is the advice you give. This is, I honestly do not understand how we got this low. By the way, you know that clip, its entirety, it was 1 minute and 9 seconds. Didn't that feel like forever? I was like, get off of me already. Do you know what I mean?
That bullcrap tough guy posturing is so old. And does he think that people are getting ready to go out and loot and they're like, oh, wait a second, that tough governor of ours, DeSantis, he's letting me know that there's Floridians with guns.
But didn't that clip seem like it was going on and on forever? It was only 1 minute long. It was 1 minute long. I'm like, oh my God, listening to him prattle on about how we should all turn on each other and be violent. I mean, whatever happened to help your neighbor? What is going on? Good Lord, man. This is the advice when people are at their worst. Shoot your neighbor, Shoot you get. I mean, how many people does he really think are in Perry, Florida? How many people does he think live on Cedar Key? Okay, it's a tiny little out island. It's in the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, it's a barrier island. How many? I mean, and the island is closed, okay, because there's so much debris on the one road that'll get you there. And he's actually implying that people are just, I don't know, climbing over each other to get on that little island to steal your water? Is that what he's insinuating? And that those interlopers, those strangers, those, I don't know, maybe they're hordes of immigrants. Maybe they're, it's the invasion, everybody. Shoot them. You psychotic piece of dung. I mean, this is just unacceptable. Unacceptable. But, I really feel bad for Casey DeSantis because he just, he did his dirty work right there. He just, did his dirty work right in front of my, for 1 minute. And I was like, get off of me. It's enough. Maybe she's one that can't get enough. Maybe she is. I can get enough. I can. Paul in New York. No? Paul? Hello? No, there's no one there. But honestly, I just, in my whole life, I have never seen such hatred for neighbors. One against the other. We'll shoot you. You don't know what's behind that door. Behind the green door. I swear to God. I don't know what is wrong with these people. And when this is the leadership, when this is the advice that comes from on high, it's not going to get much better as it filters down to the person who's having the worst possible 3 weeks of their life because, this man, it's going to take him forever to get the lights back on. You know what I mean? Like I was listening to some guy who was saying, thank you, Governor DeSantis. Thank you so much. And then they asked him, are any of the businesses, open? No. Everybody's inundated with what? Nothing was, rightly prepared for. We have absolutely no insurance. I'm coming home to absolutely nothing. But thank you, Ron DeSantis. For what? The man refused your money.
blog.com/donate.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
As he took questions after a visit with a local chamber of commerce in Kentucky.
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's
Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell began to answer, trailed off, and then appeared to freeze up for several seconds.
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026?
An aide briefly intervened as McConnell stared straight ahead, expressionless.
All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute.
Before resuming.
Okay.
His staff said McConnell became momentarily lightheaded and planned to see a doctor before his next event. It's the second such incident this summer. In July, at the Capitol, McConnell suddenly went silent.
Okay, Mitch. Anything else you want to say, or should we just go back to your office?
Do you want to say anything else to the press?
His staff also blamed that incident on lightheadedness.
You're fine, you're fully able to do your job.
McConnell was hospitalized with a concussion in March after suffering a fall at a D.C. hotel. And he's missing votes. McConnell is in the top 5 for the most absent member of a very narrowly divided Senate. Number 1 is the oldest, 90-year-old California Democrat Dianne Feinstein. She missed weeks of Senate proceedings this spring while hospitalized for shingles. Still, Florida GOP Senator Rick Scott told CBS News he's confident in McConnell as the party's leader.
My belief is he's going to come back. He's going to work hard.
Senator McConnell attended a fundraiser in Louisville after the incident yesterday. We don't know if he went to a doctor. Any absence of any senator for an extended period is potentially pivotal here in a U.S. Senate that has seen dozens of tiebreaker votes in just the past few years.
I don't know who's running Mitch McConnell. T-Mobile, I'm guessing. I don't know. He needs a reboot. Something. It's time to go. It's time to retire. Dianne Feinstein, too. It is time to step aside. Have special elections in Kentucky. Have a special election in California. You know, and some people are talking about maybe we should have a maximum age for service. You know, you can't do that. I don't think. I just don't think you can, because here we go. Back to the Constitution. The qualifications for being a senator are in the Constitution, and they don't have a maximum age. They have a minimum age, which means the founders thought about it, but they didn't put in a maximum age. Of course, you could argue that they lived to be about 50, you know, back in the day, if you wanted to argue that. But you'd be, you know, talking to a deaf, dumb, and blind Supreme Court. And that's where this will go, because they're originalists, you know. And they will tell you if we ever tried to put some sort of piece of legislation into play that said that there's a maximum age for president, because a lot of people, you know, in this audience too, think that Joe Biden at 80 is too old, and that, you know, he shouldn't be asking to be president until he's 86. And yes, it would be 86 because he's only in the second year of his first term, and then his second term will start, yes, it will, in 2025. And that will take him clear into 2029, and he will be 86 years old, okay? And I get that some people want to age him out, you know, legislatively. Same thing with Mitch McConnell and Dianne Feinstein, who's 90. She's 90. You know, I got news for you. She's not a young 90. My mother, as you know, just passed away this year. It's still fresh, okay? She was almost 93. She would have been 93 August 7th, right? The day before, Lahaina just emulated. The day before, it just burnt to the ground. I mean, just wow. That was. I mean, okay. So that was the day after her, what would have been her 93rd birthday. But you know, she was fine. Intellectually, she could still make me feel like crap. You know, like in 1.2 seconds, she never lost her edge. She never lost her ability to, get right down deep in, 1.2 seconds from zero to bitch. Okay? Never lost it. So, but Dianne, I mean, they asked her the other day, they were in a roll call, right, situation where the only thing you need to say, the only thing anybody is supposed to say, the only thing that's called upon to say is aye or no, okay? You can vote yes or no. And they're sitting there, her staff is sitting there prompting her, just say aye. Just say aye. She doesn't say anything. Just say aye. Senator. Say aye. Actually, it wasn't her staff. It was Senator Patty Murray. That's who was prompting her. And then she started talking, but she said, I am for this bill because it would restore 68. She said, no. This is roll call. Just say aye or nay. Just say yes or no. But I don't think you can legislate that. I think we need to start voting for people who are younger. And I'm no spring chicken, and I'm not an ageist, okay? Like I said, my mother was 92 and she was mentally fine. She was physically fine, too. I mean, it just, all of a sudden, it was her time peacefully in the sleep. The way you'd like to go, the way everybody dreams of going, that's how she went. But, I mean, honestly, what are we going to do about this? We got a senator who is having some sort of neurological episodes repeatedly. And this is a guy who doesn't do the right thing when he's lucid. Okay? This is the Senate minority leader, thank God now, but he was the Senate majority leader. That is one of the most, you know how long Mitch McConnell's been senator? He has run for 7 terms. 7. And each term is 6 years. You're talking 42 years. 42 years. I mean, we want to talk about term limits and all. That's who it's designed for. Guys like this. But okay, so the reason why he stays there is because he's probably so full of money, funding, raising, prowess that nobody wants to say goodbye to him. Nobody wants to say. But listen, this is a guy who never does the right thing. If he wouldn't have penalized Barack Obama for being a Democrat, simply for his party affiliation, and held open a Supreme Court seat, okay, that was supposed to go to Merrick Garland, because that is who the President of the United States at the time of Scalia's passing chose as his nominee to go and be confirmed by the Senate. And Mitch McConnell wouldn't even have confirmation hearings, wouldn't even ask the man a question, wouldn't even, pretend that he was trying to do the right thing by the Supreme Court or by the American people. No, they realize that if it's not a law, that they can do it. Even if it's, something that everybody trusts will naturally occur. If everybody thinks that a Supreme Court justice dies and the sitting president at the time names a candidate for confirmation, which the Senate then, begins to have hearings on. And they, have confirmation hearings. And then at the end of the hearings, they take a vote. That didn't happen, because Barack Obama was Barack Obama. And Mitch McConnell decided he could get away with stuff that had never happened. And so he did. He held a seat open, lying to your face, lying to my face, lying to Barack Obama's face, lying to everybody's face, saying that 11 months ahead of an election was too soon. It was too close to an election. 11 months was too close to an election. Then we learned what a lie it was, because Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed like 8 days before an election. 8 days. I mean, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I don't even think she was in the ground yet. Well, she's Jewish. Yeah, she was probably in the ground. We do it very fast. We're like Muslims that way. Well, Jews and Muslims, hate to tell you, not much difference. Cover your head if you're married. Shave your hair off if you're married. Wear a wig. Cover your head. No pork for anybody in this category. No pork at all. And when you die, you're in the ground in 5 minutes. But no, they wouldn't. They wouldn't confirm. They wouldn't even have a hearing for Garland.
Clear for takeoff. All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
So he blocks Merrick Garland and leaves the seat open for what he hopes will be a Republican president, which was Donald Trump, who actually got to put 3 of these miscreants on the court, right? And here's the thanks he gets from the conservatives on Fox News.
Great for him for blocking Merrick Garland, but that only worked because Donald Trump won. Great for him for doing the nuclear option on SCOTUS to get us Gorsuch and Kavanaugh and Barrett, but that only happened because Trump won. And oh, by the way, I just want to say something. I mean, I think Chris pointed out that Mitch was considered an expert in procedural stuff. That wasn't Mitch, and we saw that with his absence. That was the cloakroom staff and the floor staff. So I think Mitch is very much expendable. He's not with the base, and I think he's made it very clear that his priorities with Ukraine and other things have nothing to do with where the Republican base is right now. You ask who do I think is probably going to replace him? It's probably going to be John Thune, who I have to admit in the Senate's been a little disappointing, but my dad served with him in the House. If we get John Thune from the House, I think he'd be palatable to the base.
This is where they decide your future on Fox News. I swear to God, it's an episode of Succession. Is really what it is. This is really where, on Lala Show, is where they're going to decide who your next president is. On Lala Show, they're going to decide who the next, Senate Majority Leader or Minority Leader is. Right there on the Lala Show. And she is so bizarre. She is that is a strange show. That is a really strange. I mean, Hannity, Hannity is going to be like, dumb it down, make it real accessible, hate, grievance, rage, like that. But she's like so bizarre. She's like, okay, we're going to pick Mitch McConnell's replacement today. Who should we invite on the show to name who should replace Mitch McConnell? And you know what? I think John Eastman should go to jail because he set Donald Trump up for the fall. And I'm really pissed at John Eastman. So put him on my show, and I'm going to ask him, what did you really expect was going to happen on January 6th? With a live court case, right? Talk him into talking on Fox News as if that's going to play well in court. First of all, Eastman, literally inculpated himself, meaning showed you that he was guilty of giving Donald Trump advice that was illegal, advice that Eric Hirschman told him was illegal. That remember Mike Pence's, counsel told John Eastman after a 2-hour conversation with him, you will lose in the Supreme Court 9-0 with this theory. And he said, no, maybe I'll lose 7-2. And then they talked for another few minutes and he goes, yeah, you're right. I would lose on this theory 9-0. And he still is saying this was legitimate, viable, doable advice that I was giving to the president. And I was acting as his lawyer. And he was relying on me. John Eastman was Donald Trump's. I mean, Bill Barr, head of the Department of Justice, okay? Bill Barr, you could have talked to. He did. Hirschman, he's a White House counsel. Could have talked to him. He did. Then, you go to Cipollone, who is the counsel to the president of the United States. Talk to him. He did. None of them told him what he wanted to hear, so all of them were ignored in favor of ill-conceived losing, where and here's the standard, everybody, in case you're wondering, like, how do these legal eagles decide what they can and can't advise their clients to do? Like, why can't they tell their clients that you're allowed to break into a bank as long as, you don't leave a note? Why can't they advise them that? Because there's a standard. It's called the reasonable man standard. And if you don't think that a reasonable man would believe that that was legal, or that a reasonable court would think that the advice you were giving was within the realm of legality, then you can't advise your client to do those things, right?
Just again, so we clarify this, on January 6th, what did you want to happen? And how was that historically grounded in the history of our country? How would that have taken place? So just so the viewers can understand what would have unfolded and how that would have ultimately been constitutional.
Okay, so let me explain this to you. She went to Dartmouth. She is she was also a clerk. I think she was a clerk for Clarence. I'm almost sure she was. She knows the Constitution, Laura does, and she is literally leading him. Like they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. She just made the horse drink. Okay? She literally led him down that road. She's actually got the little eye roll going on there. And Idiot Boy is about to actually confess. I swear to God.
So there, several things. Some people had urged that Vice President Pence simply had power to reject electors whose certification was still pending in legal contests.
I don't believe that, but go ahead. I don't believe that.
I don't
That's
either.
One thing I don't agree with.
And I explicitly told Vice President Pence in the Oval Office on January 4th that even though it was an open issue, under the circumstances we had, I thought it was the weaker argument, and it would be foolish to exercise such power even if he had it. What I recommended, and I've said this repeatedly, is that he accede to requests from more than 100 state legislators in the swing states to give them a week to try and sort out the impact of what everybody acknowledged was illegality in the conduct of the election.
Nobody
specifically said.
It. Yeah, not everyone acknowledged
like
it,
no
but
one.
That was the argument that was being made, obviously. And there were obviously irregularities that everybody had seen, but whether that was,
enough to change
whether it rose
the
to
result?
the level of changing the outcome of the election, again, without a legal proceeding in the states that mattered, the argument ultimately was a difficult one to make. I mean, hence here we are.
Hence it failed. The argument failed in courts all over this country 60 plus times. Okay. So she actually gets him to confess on her little TV show there. It's very sick. It's very sad. It's just it's amazing. And by the way, she tanked Trump too, because if she is a TV lawyer, okay, if she's just a hostess on a Fox show, I don't even want to call it news because it ain't. But if she's just a hostess on a TV show, okay, and she can actually get this man to confess to advising the president of and the vice president to engage in unconstitutional behavior to the point where no reasonable man, not even a TV talk show hostess, would think that that was viable on January 6th, where on December 14th, all of the electors were certified. Okay, all of them were certified. There had been many, many recounts. Georgia had 3 counts. Three counts. The original count, a 5 million total vote hand recount, biggest hand job in the history of the South, okay? And then Trump requested a recount and got one too. So, what do they think on January 6th is still, as they say, ripe to litigate after 60 failed lawsuits? Nothing at all. I mean, but she gets him to confess, okay? And Eric Hirschman is already, under oath in the January 6th hearings, right? The lawyers deposed everyone in the White House. Everyone. Subpoenaed anyone who didn't want to testify. Like Mike Pence. Don't know why he didn't want to testify, but his chief of staff did, Mark Short. And they all said he knew he had no power to do anything. So why were they even asking him to do anything? And why were they threatening his life? Why were they doing this? Everybody knew. And Hirschman actually testified that he told John Eastman, the only thing I want to hear out of your mouth is seamless transition. And now I'm going to give you some legal advice. Get yourself a criminal attorney because you're going to effing need one. And now he confesses on Lala's show.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Mr. Jacob, you discussed and even debated this theory at length with Dr. Eastman. Did Dr. Eastman ever tell you what he thought the U.S. Supreme Court would do if it had to decide this issue?
Yes. We had an extended discussion, an hour and a half to 2 hours on January 5th. And when I pressed him on the point, I said, John, if the vice president did what you were asking him to do, we would lose 9-0 in the Supreme Court, wouldn't we? And he initially started it, well, I think maybe you would lose only 7-2. And after some further discussion, acknowledged, well, yeah, you're right, we would lose 9-0.
So that, combined with his confession on Lala Ingram's show, actually locks him in the who's gal. And it implicates Donald Trump, too. And I got news for you. None of this would have happened. None of it. We would not be here in this particular situation with a man who is indicted on 91 felonies. Oh, today, just breaking news, everybody. Trump pled not guilty to all 13 counts in Georgia and waived his appearance at the arraignment so he doesn't have to go to Georgia to enter the plea. Okay, so surprise. But if it wasn't for Mitch McConnell, we would not be here. What? Yes, because if Mitch McConnell would have just told a few more of his Republican senators to vote to convict Donald Trump in the second impeachment hearing, which had to do with this. It had to do with January 6th. The second impeachment was they charged Donald Trump with conspiring to overthrow the results of a free and fair election, of giving aid and comfort to insurrectionists, which he did. Go home. We love you. Okay. I know how horrible it is to have an election stolen from you. They stole it from us. Right. And honestly, if Mitch McConnell would have told a couple more Republicans they were free to vote their stinking conscience and that they should vote to convict Donald Trump so that we did not have this situation today where we have a presidential candidate, the likely winner of the Republican presidential primary, only because primary voters vote for crazy in the Republican primary. That's why almost all of the contenders, like the Vivek, Mr. Smarmies, I mean, this guy is so disgusting. He's so low that his own, he would throw in to defraud investors on an Alzheimer's drug with the help of his mommy. I mean, it just takes the cake. But that the people who are viable, let's say, in the Republican primary, the death sentence guy over here and the smarmy guy over there, and of course then there's only the Donald, right? That's all that's really left as a viable winner. That person is going to run for president with 91 felonies charged against him in 4 different jurisdictions. If Mitch McConnell would have told the Republicans that they should not leave it to the civilian courts because it would end up just like this, and he's smart enough to know this because he's been serving in the United States Senate as the leader for, 42 years? And if he just would have had a little bit of backbone and a little bit of courage and a little bit of conviction in what he believes was a just result to the insurrection, because he said it on the floor. He said on the floor that this was Donald Trump's doing, but he said that we should leave this to the civilian courts. He said we should trust this to the judiciary, to the judicial branch, and punt it. Okay, that's what he did, because you never want to make a decision at all that's not done behind closed doors. But if Mitch McConnell would have given them the green light to go ahead and convict, we would not be in this position. We also wouldn't have a crazy-ass Supreme Court, okay? We would not. We would have had Merrick Garland instead of Merrick Garland at the Department of Justice. We would have had him doing what he trained his whole life to do, and that was being a judge. Judge Merrick Garland, okay? Merrick Garland came from the D.C. Circuit. He should be on the Supreme Court doing what is comfortable for him, what is his training, what he was, totally on track to do by virtue of his curriculum vitae. He should be a judge. He should be a justice, actually, at the Supreme Court level. That's why Obama picked him. He was very fair. He was moderate. He wasn't a Republican. He wasn't a Democrat. He was just an arbiter of law. A fair arbiter of law. He wasn't an originalist. He wasn't a textualist. He also wasn't a rapist. And he wasn't somebody that was paid for. But that was no good for Mitch McConnell. And by the way, when you hear them on Fox say, he's dispensable, he's disposable, we got what we came for out of him, and he mentions the nuclear option, I just want you to remember that Mitch McConnell, as Senate Majority Leader, did use the nuclear option, meaning no more 60 votes as a threshold for Supreme Court justices. That's what Mitch McConnell carved out because he knew he didn't have 60 votes to confirm anybody on the Supreme Court. So he decided to lower the threshold, which they call the nuclear option, which is what we should do for legislation. Legislation still requires a supermajority. But Supreme Court justices who serve on the court for the rest of their freaking lives, and probably yours and mine too, simple majority, nuclear option. Mitch McConnell rigged it, fixed it, so that would be the case. Should have been exactly the opposite. Legislation is for us. Legislation is the will of the people. Legislation actually, but no. Legislation got to have a supermajority. But a Supreme Court justice, 51 votes will do. It'll do. So anyway, that's what he's talking about. And now they're saying, and you know what the big thank you to you is, Mitch? Go F yourself. We're done with you. And this is what happened with Bill Barr, too. Okay, Bill Barr got exactly what he came for. Bill Barr went to be, again, for the second time, he went to be the Attorney General of the United States. This was not his first rodeo. So he actually wrote an opinion piece right, saying that Donald Trump was innocent, Donald Trump shouldn't be impeached in Ukraine, and Donald Trump, it was a perfect phone call, and I could help you, and blah, 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 and this and that. And Donald Trump said, I don't like this Beauregard dude. I mean, I need my Roy Cohn. Maybe this guy is it. And why did Bill Barr throw his hat into the ring for a second time? Why did he do that? Because he's an Opus Dei Catholic, which is a very specific right-wing type of Catholic. And they want a Catholic religious belief system deployed in this country. That's what they want. They want, Supreme Court justices who will outlaw abortion, right? They want Supreme Court justices that will say women are chattel, that they can't own property. They can't have credit, right? They want to go back to those bad old days where women, I don't know. Hey, listen, incels, they already take a self-imposed vow of celibacy. So, they're not disturbed by it at all. Incels. Really? So it's my fault, right? It's my fault. They're so angry that they go out and they do like shootings, mass shootings and violence and leave, what do you call those? Manifestos. Blaming me.
And all the rest of the women.
Yeah, all the women. It's all the women. Like it's our fault that you can't get any. I mean, honestly, try harder. Get off mom's couch. You know what I'm saying? It's not my fault.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Okay, this is Eric Hirschman, White House lawyer.
Eastman, I don't remember why he called me, or he texted me or called me, wanted to talk with me, and he said he couldn't reach others. And he started to ask me about something dealing with Georgia and preserving something potentially for appeal. And I said to him, "Are you out of your effing mind?" Right? I said, I only want to hear two words coming out of your mouth from now on. Orderly transition. And I screamed, I said, I don't want to hear any other effing words coming out of your mouth, no matter what, other than orderly transition. Repeat those words to me. Oh, God. And I screamed that. Eventually he said, orderly transition. I said, good, John. Now I'm going to give you the best free legal advice you're ever getting in your life. Get a great effing criminal defense lawyer. You're going to need it. And then I hung up on him.
In fact, just a few days later, Dr. Eastman emailed Rudy Giuliani and requested that he be included on a list of potential recipients of a presidential pardon.
Oh, my God.
Dr. Eastman's email stated, quote, I've decided that I should be on the pardon list, if that is still in the works. Dr. Eastman did not receive his presidential pardon. So let's see what Dr. Eastman did as a result when he was deposed by this committee.
I assert my Fifth Amendment right against being compelled to be a witness against myself.
Did the Trump legal team ask you to prepare a memorandum regarding the vice president's role in the counting of electoral votes at the joint session of Congress on January 6, 2021?
Fifth.
Dr. Eastman, did you advise the President of the United States that the Vice President could reject electors from 7 states and declare that the President had been reelected?
Fifth.
Dr. Eastman, the first sentence of the memo starts off by saying 7 states have transmitted dual slates of electors to the President of the Senate. Is that statement in this memo true?
Fifth.
And then he goes on Laura Ingram's show after he's indicted and confesses. Oh my God! This is the gang that couldn't shoot straight. This is really and if Mitch McConnell, again, the whole point of reliving this right here today is to show you that if Mitch McConnell would have been the statesman that he fancies himself as, and would have allowed the Republican, members of the Senate to convict, to remove Donald Trump, even though Donald Trump was already out of office, right? That was the whole point that Mitch McConnell, well, yeah, he did do it, and he did try to overthrow the results of the election, and he, but we can't even remove him because he's not president anymore, and so let the courts sort it out. But if he would have let that conviction vote go forward, and Mitch McConnell knows this, Donald Trump would be ineligible to be on the ballot in any of the 50 states. And now we're in this conundrum. Now we're in this terrible, terrible position of having to have governors and secretaries of state decide whether or not Donald Trump needs to be removed from ballots. Can he legitimately run for the presidency, knowing that he aided and abetted, at the very least, insurrectionists, and that he conspired to overthrow the results of a free and fair election, and that he went out there and literally subverted the results wherever he could by getting people to sign up to be fake electors, because John Eastman and Rudy Giuliani, the drunk, told him what he wanted to hear, which he intellectually knew was wrong. John Eastman knew it was wrong, and we showed you that John Eastman knew it was wrong because John Eastman testified to, Greg Jacobs testified, and that's Mike Pence's counsel. When he was vice president, Greg Jacobs was counsel to the vice president. And Greg Jacobs testified in the January 6th committee hearings under oath that he told John Eastman he would lose this independent legislature theory that he had. He would lose in the Supreme Court 9-0. And Eastman said maybe 7-2. I don't know who the two he thought were. I know one had to be Clarence, because Clarence's wife was in on this too. She's the one that introduced John Eastman to Donald Trump to create this fake elector scheme. She's a lawyer too. So spare me all of this, Donald Trump was relying on counsel. How could he have known? They all testified that this is not coming out of nowhere, but we would not be in this position at all if Mitch McConnell would have allowed Republicans to vote their damn conscience and would have said, you know what, Donald Trump can never hold the presidency or any position of honor ever again. And if we convict him now in this, Senate proceeding after the impeachment, the second impeachment of this man, with all this evidence that we heard, that we saw, that we could, read for ourselves, that we could hear for ourselves, that we could see on the TV, the violence that did ensue, the crushing of the police officers, the damaging of the police officers, the loss of life that happened at the Capitol, by supporters of his and, police officers too. But we've lived through it. We saw it. We were the targets of it. And if Mitch McConnell would have just given them the permission to vote this guy a conviction, we would not be here today. None of this would be happening. Donald Trump, would still be, on the hook for court proceedings, but it would have been, no muss, no fuss, and he would not be running for president. And he would not be able to say to a court, which is bogus anyway, that he's too busy to be put on trial because he's running for president. See, I got news for you. No matter what your profession is, I don't care if you're a brain surgeon. I don't care if you're on the cusp of a cure for Alzheimer's for real, and you're in the last possible days of your third stage trial, and it's about to work. And then you need to go out on the, trail, and you need to sell this to the FDA, or you need to get it approved by the CDC, whatever. The court doesn't care, okay? It doesn't matter what your job is. And running for president, being president, different. Running for president, no, not different. If there's a court date on March 4th, and it's the day before Super Tuesday for the Republican primary, it doesn't matter. If that's the day that they schedule, that a judge schedules you for trial, that is the day you will go to trial. And Donald Trump is like, so busy, I'm going to appeal. Got news for you, dear. You can't appeal a court date. The judge sets it. The judge calls it. That's it. It's not appealable. So he's gonna go for this January 6th debacle on March 4th, the day before Super Tuesday. And he can't claim, I'm running for president, so therefore I get special treatment. That doesn't work. That doesn't play. That's not true. nor should it be. Rory in Florida.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Randy.
Hey.
Grew up in Queens, lived there for 40 years, and lived in Tampa Bay for 25. Lala is out in right field with a hockey stick. But anyway, back to DeSantis. I honestly think he wants to get rid of all of us and put this place into some sort of a crazy right-wing white supremacist state. You know, rich people and stuff like that. This is insane.
Wait. White supremacists or rich people? Because
rich people and white. Well, rich people and white supremacists.
So, how does not rebating people for making more resilient homes attract rich people?
Well, they don't have to pay for it. They got enough money to put a roof on their house, to do this, to do that, right?
But what
know that.
But what do rich people do with land? They develop it, and
Yeah.
Well, that's not going to be anything that anybody is going to be able to sell if you can't get homeowners insurance.
They don't care. They can do anything they want.
No.
Okay.
A developer, it doesn't have enough billionaires to sell a development to, right? They're not going to have enough, buyers for what they're developing. You have to sell to the middle class. You have to sell to the upper middle class, and you have to sell to, entry level people if you're building apartment complexes. So.
Well, you're absolutely correct, but the problem is that DeSantis is delusional enough
he's not
to think that he can do this. He's a nutcase.
No. He went to Yale and then he went to Harvard, okay? And he's not delusional. What he is a panderer, okay? He's trying to play, I'm tougher than Trump. And I got news for you. Nobody wants anything but Trump. The people who vote for cruelty, the people who vote for meanness, Trump is their guy. You can't out-cruel him.
Clear for takeoff. The Randi Rhodes